This sort of follows on from what I've been saying about pupil voice and teachers' responsibility with quality first teaching, so that everyone is actually a teacher of those with special educational needs. I've obviously heard several speakers over the years. One who I found amazing when I was learning about AS, autism, was somebody called Ros Blackburn, and she was absolutely amazing. She really helped us to see things from somebody with high functioning autism from their perspective. This was somebody who on stage, as it were, you know, up there talking to all of us, was amazing. Her passion was words, but she explained the things she needed to be able to actually talk to a group of people, and the motivation for her was trampoline lessons. She was absolutely inspirational. If you ever get a chance to hear her, please do. And then this week I was at a conference scholarship day on wellbeing, and there was somebody there. There were just quite short speakers, you know, short time for speaking, and there was somebody called Tom de la Hunt who was absolutely inspirational. He has been generous enough to share his poetry with me, and is perfectly happy for me to then share something with you. I've chosen The Boyhood That Stares Out Windows. If I keep looking down, it's because I'm reading the poem. This touched me because I have worked with so many people, and I am myself, he's dyslexic, I'm dyslexic, and I get that feeling of just not being understood, working really hard but not necessarily having that appreciated, because you're thinking differently, you're working differently, you'd like to present stuff differently. I'll read this and then I'll say some more. So, The Boy That Stares Out Windows, Tom de la Hunt, or de la Hunt, not actually sure how he pronounced his name, I need to check that with him. Sit at that table and stay inside the lines. Your spelling needs some attention. See me. Maybe consider having an assessment done, as there are signs of challenges. It's borderline, he's unlikely to achieve. Don't disrupt the class, they said. You are damaging the experience for everyone, they said. Why don't you focus on the question, they said. What you think or see isn't important. Just write what you have been told, they said. I don't want him in the class anymore, they said. Tell me what you are seeing and feeling, she said. You are a very bright boy, and it's clear you have been let down, she said. Welcome to the faculty, they said. Don't you have trouble with processes? We have some concerns, they said. Let's have an assessment done to see why it's proving difficult to follow guidance and policy, they said. I can't mark this as it isn't matching the expected learning outcomes, she said. It's beautiful writing, and we have let you down, she said. Why don't you tell us what you experienced in a way that makes sense to you, she said. You are clearly a bright boy, and we have let you down, she said. You are amazing, and it's clear that you see things that others can't, she said. You have a real value, and your abilities need to be appreciated. Don't give up, she said. If only I could tell you what I see and feel when I look out the window, as in that space it all makes sense. Who can I paint my pictures with now, he said. Now, I feel that she said, is our responsibility as Senkos. There have been, I remember at school doing a project, it was on pre and postnatal, it was a whole thing on pregnancy, a really long project we had, and I spent hours and hours and hours on it. And I got told it was untidy, the spelling was poor. The content was good, but I got told it was untidy and the spelling was poor. I've looked back over it. It's a blooming good project. It was amazing. But I came away feeling that loss of self, that I've put so much into it. Why can't you see that? I was always a daydreamer. I get that looking out of the window. I play music in my head, all sorts of things. And there's times when people just don't get that. Now, I've taught, there's a boy I taught a few years ago now, and he had a teacher who didn't get him, really didn't get him. Used to constantly tell him to sit down and pay attention. This child is somebody who I can remember at a school tea time concert, he's sat there, and in between all the performances, he's sat there with some maths work, and he's doing maths because he loved maths, and he was just doing this maths and then looking up, oh yeah, that's going on, that's great, bit more maths, look up, look up. And he had been overlooked by this teacher because his behaviour didn't fit. He could not sit still. He was really, really dyslexic. I did some assessments, and when he moved up to a different teacher, she noticed that this class generally didn't like sitting down. So she said to me, is it okay if they stand? I'm like, are they working? Yeah. Are they happy? Yeah. Do they seem to get it? Yeah. Then why make them sit? And this whole idea of sit down, shush, get on, can be so restricting. And this child, this whole class, there were quite a few dyslexics and other learning needs within that class, they flourished under this teacher who just let them be who they were and brought out who they were. You know, I'm talking year 3. You know, we're talking 8-year-olds. And in, you know, when they've been younger, in year 2, that's when they've been told to sit down and shush. That's not going to work. Let them feel who they are. Take time to see the person, not just the spelling, the outside the lines, the lack of focus, the punctuation. Who is that person? What do they want to tell us? Why can't they express themselves in other ways and gradually bring in the skills they will require in order to be able to read and write and function in that way? But we have so many strategies at our fingertips. If we can just see the child, see the person, as opposed to the outcomes. I mean, the line in here about it isn't matching the expected learning outcomes. Okay, those are the expected learning outcomes, but what are they learning? It doesn't mean they're not meeting learning outcomes. They may not be the ones that this task, you know, a task can lead you anywhere, a thought can lead you anywhere. You can start thinking, this is what I'm going to say, and then you find yourself on a different track, provided you are learning. Yes, there are things that have to be complied with at school, I get that. There has to be some sort of norm, I get that. But there are also other ways of expressing things, and when we allow those other things in, we can surely include people, and the things that we are supposed to be teaching can start to come out, because we've allowed the person to be who they are, and we've seen the value of each individual, and we can allow them to flourish and be who they are. If we are so constraining, we can stop that. I always, as an English teacher and as a special needs teacher, I always say, your first draft of anything, I don't care what the spelling is, I don't care what the punctuation is, I don't even care what the structure is, just get those ideas down. We can work beyond that. And if you've got that freedom to not be thinking, oh, I spelt that wrong, oh gosh, I'll use it. I mean, the amount of times I've changed my vocabulary because I can't spell a word. At a computer, fine, I use spell check, usually well, not always, sometimes the words don't come up at all because they're a bit bizarre the way I've spelled them, but never mind. We have ways. However, you know, there are certain words, I know I've tried so hard to learn how to spell the word apologise. Nope, can never get it right. And I end up saying the word sorry. If I want to use the word apologise, I find other ways, other words. I shouldn't feel restricted. My vocabulary is restricted because of my spelling. Don't let that be a restriction, you know, don't let that be a constraint. I might need to doodle something first. I can't listen without doodling. You can see my hands are always on the go. If you've seen my videos, you'll see my hands are always on the go. I'm not good at just sitting and being. So why do we make people do that? Can we give people the freedom? Look beyond, you know, this beautiful poem. It's beautiful writing, so we have let you down, she said. That's something I have seen so much as a teacher, where something is beautiful and then it just gets dismissed because it didn't fulfill the criteria. In interviewing people for my doctorate, which was on the emotional response of teachers to inspection, one of the teachers was so upset because she said children were producing these beautiful pieces of writing, but the learning objective was handwriting and it wasn't neat, so she couldn't acknowledge that, and she felt so frustrated. She was in tears because she could see the beauty of the work and she wasn't supposed to be acknowledging that. She was supposed to be looking at handwriting. So let's look beyond these learning criteria. Let's look at the child within and see what we can do to support that child and help that child to not only flourish but to feel valued, because what happens in your self-esteem affects everything. We talk about well-being, we crush that well-being when we don't allow the child to be. Thank you.